Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are diving deep into the unprecedented financial mechanics of the 2026 World Cup. We're going to be looking at a truly fascinating contrast here. On one side, you have these massive, record-breaking corporate profits and wild technological advancements driving the tournament. But on the other side, we have the very real ecological and social realities faced by the local host cities that are, actually putting on the show.
To help guide us through all this, here is our roadmap. We'll start with the record-breaking spectacle itself, look at the broadcast deals and unpack the revenue machine. Then, we'll pivot down to the ground level to explore local resistance, the ecological costs, and ultimately, the divided legacy of this massive mega event.
All right, let's jump right into Section 1, a record-breaking spectacle.
For the very first time, FIFA has expanded the playing field to 48 teams, and this has created an absolute logistical mammoth of a tournament, featuring 104 matches spread out across 16 different cities. Just think about that for a second. We're talking about a single tournament spanning 4 time zones and a maximum distance of 2,800 miles. It's an operation that demands a truly unprecedented level of infrastructure.
And, well, all that geography translates directly into cold, hard revenue. FIFA President Gianni Infantino projects that the governing body's total revenue across the 2023 to 2026 cycle can actually top $15 billion. Now, it's crucial to note that while this figure represents the entire 4-year cycle, it's being driven largely by the sheer commercial power of this expanded North American tournament.
Behind the scenes, the whole event is operating on a massive 4-supplier technology stack. We've got Hawkeye running the offside engine, Lenovo providing 3D player avatars, Adidas and Kinexon powering the Trionda sensor ball, and Hisense equipping the official review rooms. Utilizing 16 cameras per stadium, this tech stack generates up to 172 million data points per match. To put that into perspective, the previous system generated around 600,000. Going from 600,000 to 172 million data points in just a single cycle is a pretty spectacular live demonstration of exactly where sports media technology is heading.
Moving on to Section 2, the broadcast rights bargain.
To really understand this, we've got to go back to a backdoor handshake in Zurich back in 2014. See, FIFA needed to move the 2022 Qatar tournament from the summer to the winter, but Fox had already bought the rights expecting a summer tournament, completely free from the heavy TV competition of the NFL and college football. So, to avoid a massive lawsuit from Fox over the scheduling shift, FIFA granted the network a no-bid extension for 2026. Keep in mind, at that time, literally nobody knew the 2026 event would be a highly lucrative, expanded North American tournament. It was a massive corporate gamble that paid off entirely for the network.
So Fox locked in these exclusive U.S. rights for $485 million, but industry experts estimate that on the open market today, those exact same rights could be worth up to $1.5 billion. This deal was so incredibly undervalued that as the tournament's commercial profile grew, FIFA actually briefly hired the white shoe law firm Paul Weiss just to try and find a legal loophole to rescind their own bad deal, but Fox produced a rigorous legal defense and FIFA ultimately had to back down.
Which brings us to Section 3, the revenue machine. Because of that massive broadcast bargain, FIFA is now aggressively maximizing every other possible revenue stream. The tournament itself has a record budget of $3.76 billion. So to help cover this and hit those revenue targets, FIFA is utilizing dynamic ticket pricing for the first time ever at a World Cup. Prices will fluctuate entirely based on demand, which is definitely going to push some tickets into the thousands of dollars. And get this, if you buy a resale ticket on the official platform, FIFA is actually double dipping. They take a 15% cut from the buyer and then another 15% cut from the seller on every single resale transaction.
They're also totally rewriting the playbook for new media, forcing creator access clauses into broadcast deals. This essentially mandates physical space and access for digital creators right there in the stadiums. Alongside this, FIFA is securing incredibly lucrative new global sponsorships with top-tier partners like the Saudi state oil company Aramco and tech giant Lenovo to fill out their newly restructured sponsorship tiers.
But let's step out of the corporate boardrooms for a minute and look at the reality on the ground in the host cities. These local communities are navigating a completely different world because while the corporate side is projecting billions in revenue and unprecedented tech integrations, the locals are out there facing severe water crises, risks of displacement, and significant ecological strain directly tied to the tournament's infrastructure.
Let's dive into Section 4, local resistance and resources.
Let's head down to Mexico City, where the modernization of the famous Azteca Stadium is reviving some really old conflicts over land and essential resources. Right next to the stadium sits the indigenous village of Santa Ursula Coapa. Now, to support the stadium's massive operations and the surrounding mega-developments, the developer, Televisa, actually obtained rights to extract 450 million liters of water annually from a local well. That is a staggering amount of extraction happening in a neighborhood that already suffers from severe water scarcity during the dry season, yet ironically faces devastating floods during the rainy season due to poor infrastructure.
And local residents are actively organizing against this. Activists like Natalia Lara are pointing out the stark contrast between corporate extraction for a mega event and neighborhoods that literally lack basic running water. As she states, they view this private well concession as a direct violation of their human right to water. In fact, murals around the stadium carry a very serious, grounded message from the community that translates to, if the water does not arrive, neither does the World Cup.
Which leads right into Section 5, the ecological cost.
This strain definitely isn't isolated to just Mexico City. Similar environmental struggles are playing out in other host cities like Monterrey and Guadalajara. Down in Monterrey, the BBVA Stadium was controversially built on a forested groundwater reservoir in La Pastora Park. Imagine being in a city where millions go without water for weeks, but you're watching massive beverage corporations continue their extraction. Well, that was the traumatic reality for Monterrey during their 2022 water crisis. This history has sparked ongoing protests from residents like Consuelo Cruz, who argue that public decisions consistently favor private development and ecological extraction over local well-being.
Meanwhile, over in Guadalajara, we see this really fascinating contradiction. Authorities heavily promote the Akron Stadium as being highly sustainable, highlighting stuff like its rainwater harvesting and container gardens. But critics are pointing to a much different reality. The stadium is surrounded by rapid urbanization, including a massive Little Silicon Valley tech hub. The stadium itself features AI systems and gaming centers that naturally draw immense energy. And the irony is, all of this massive power consumption and rapid development sits right next to the La Primavera Biosphere Reserve, directly threatening local wildlife and severely exacerbating the risk of forest fires.
And finally, Section 6, a divided legacy. Let's bring it all together by looking impartially at the underlying structure of this whole mega event. Who exactly is taking on the risk for this incredible spectacle? Well, this right here is the core tension of the 2026 World Cup model. FIFA has chosen to manage this tournament directly, eliminating the traditional local organizing committee. This means FIFA retains super tight, centralized control over the most lucrative revenue streams, the media rights, the global sponsorships, and that highly profitable dynamic ticketing system. However, the host cities themselves are the ones bearing the heavy operational burdens. They are the ones paying for the safety, the security, the public transit upgrades, and managing all of those long-term environmental impacts.
So, as the massive tech integrations finally powered down and the billions in broadcast revenue are counted up, it leaves us with one incredibly crucial question. When the 104th match ends and the world finally looks away, who truly pays for and who profits from the biggest show on Earth?